Hello and welcome to the world of EDC. My name's Jeff and today we're going to be doing my take on a knife review on this knife here. This is the Civivi Anthropos, I think is how it's pronounced. If it's not, I apologize, but I like saying it that way, so that's the way I'm going to say it in this video. This is an Isham design. As I'm sure most of you know, this knife is pretty popular right now, and so I wanted to give my take on it. Now, I'm not necessarily a specs kind of guy. I just don't really get into it all that much, and I feel like there are much better representations of what the specs and whatnot of it are out there. My take on the review of this knife is, does it kind of check all the boxes for me to make it EDC worthy, or do I think there is a better option or money that could be better spent on it? So that's going to be kind of my take on it. I will put the stats of it on the screen from Blade HQ. So if anybody is interested in those, you can go ahead and just check those out. I'm sure I will have edited those in for you to see. Let's go ahead and start with the fit and finish of this knife. Is it for the money that's spent, is it quality enough? I got this one for I think around $75 off of Blade HQ, and I have to say that the fit and finish, it's my first ever example of a Civivi, and the fit and finish on it is pretty excellent. I haven't found any kind of flaws in my example. The only real problem I have with it is that, if you didn't see that in the beginning, if I don't get a full purchase on that flipper tab, and I'm trying to do that on camera, you're not going to get a full deployment without any wrist. And I think that that's inherently brought on by this flipper tab. If you don't get a full purchase, it's just going to do kind of one of those lazy flip out. So it's hard to get it on camera, but you can get it, but it's more often than not you're going to have a short fire on it. So as far as fit and finish, I would kind of throw that in there. Maybe that's a design thing more so, but that is my only criticism of this knife so far. And I've had this knife for a little over a week now, I believe, and I've been carrying it every day and putting it to work. The other design thing that for me is okay in this particular example of a knife, but I would prefer some jimping up here. That's just my personal taste. It doesn't need to be very super aggressive jimping, but I just prefer jimping on most of my knives that I'm going to EDC and use them. If I'm going to put it to work, I want to make sure that it's not going to be sliding in out of my hand. And the reason why I give it a pass is because of this finger choil. When I'm locked into this knife, without that jimping there, I'm not going anywhere anyways because of this finger choil. So to me, it's not that big a deal that it doesn't have jimping. One of the things that I talked about in first getting this knife, and this isn't necessarily going to determine whether or not the knife is a good EDC or not, but I thought that this orange was going to be a brighter orange, and therefore it would make it a decent carry to take on a hike or something like that. In case you dropped it, that orange would be very easy to see. And it's it is orange, and coming through, I know that on camera and even the pictures that are on Blade HQ and other websites, it looks a lot more like neon orange, but in person it's not very neon orange-ish. And I know it doesn't come across on the camera, because even through my viewfinder I can see that it looks more vibrant all through the camera than it does in person. And so I thought that this was going to be a good knife to take out into the outdoors without having to fear losing it, because you can always find that orange. But with that being said, it is orangish enough that I feel like it still would serve the purpose, just not as well as I thought going into buying this knife. That brings me to the most important thing about this knife, and that's the blade shape and the materials used and how it performs throughout my daily stuff. And I'm not a let me start over. I am a hard use guy, but I am not using it hard every single day. So most of my cutting tasks are, opening packages, envelopes, that kind of deal, just like every other knife user for the most part. I will have the odd day, couple times a month, where I have to really beat a knife up. I didn't have that instance with this knife yet, and if I'm being honest, this knife is such a beautiful design that I feel like I would be reluctant to do it, because I have other knives that I would feel more so are beaters, that I wouldn't have to beat this knife up. I think that it would be up to the task, but I just feel like I don't necessarily need to do it with this knife, especially considering that it's such a pretty design, and like I said, I have others that can do that. With all that being said, it brings me to one of the most important things for me as far as like looking at a knife, and that's the price. Like I said earlier, is that I got this knife for right around $75, and for what you're getting, I think that for me personally, that's $75 well spent on a knife that you're not going to want to use hard. And maybe someone out there thinks that this might be a hard use knife and they might use it in that regard, but for me, this is not a hard use knife, not because it's not up to the task, but because the reasons that I stated before, that it's just a pretty design, and to go around scraping up and bashing up this blade and whatever hard stuff that I can do to a knife, which I can do and I have done in the past, I just don't feel like it's necessary for this knife. I don't feel like that's what this knife was intended for. It wasn't. I don't know Elijah Isham, so I can't speak to what he had in mind for it, but I think this is more geared towards a capable but unnecessary beater. And I guess if that makes sense to you, I think that this is more of an elegant knife, something that light use EDC. It's well suited for light use EDC, in my opinion. The last thing I will talk about is this deep carry pocket clip. It does an amazing job. There is very little of the knife that sticks out, and what does stick out makes for a great purchase on getting it in and out of your pocket. And so for me, the clip is really well done. So like I said in the beginning, this is my first attempt at doing a knife review through the philosophy of, is it good for EDC or not? And so if I'm boiling it down to just that, I think that this is a great knife for EDC, for those of you out there that aren't going to go around scraping things off of concrete or things of that nature. If you're just going to use it for opening packages, maybe some meal prep, different things like that, I think that this is a huge win, and I think that the $75 is money well spent, and that's my personal take on it. So with all that being said, I really do hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching. Please leave a like rating if you did enjoy this video. Please leave a comment down below if you have any critiques about this. Obviously, I will refine down my reviewing process even more beyond this. And again, with all that being said, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.